Welcome to the Silicon Slopes podcast. Today we're with Marlon Lindsay, who's the founder of 21st Century Ed. How are you?
I'm well. I'm blessed.
That's good to hear. So this is a new name, right? A little bit of a rebrand?
Yes. We actually operate both as TechTrep, which the market knows us as TechTrep, and we're rebranding to 21st Century Ed. And the reason for that is the work that we're doing now is so much bigger than the work of providing STEM curriculum. What we discovered was, as we look to make sure all students have access to what we call comprehensive STEM education, there's some work that we need to do to make that possible. Work such as context setting. When we talk about STEM, people typically think robotics and coding and maybe some engineering stuff, but STEM is much deeper and wider than that. So we really do have to educate the marketplace about what that is. And then we realize that if we're going to make it possible for all students to have STEM, we really need a structure. And so we have a three-legged stool model where it's access. We got to get all kids access to comprehensive STEM right away. And so we have a platform. We call it a mass customized learning platform that delivers, I think we're up to 46 courses. We call them STEM experiences right now. But the important work around that is we have to help shift the school culture so that they understand and embrace the need for comprehensive STEM, not just a few STEM programs. Mm-hmm. And so we're having teachers, we call it LBDPD, learn by doing professional development, roll their sleeves up and enter into these co-learning opportunities with students. With, of course, design thinking is underneath all that we do. Mentorship development. We can't scale STEM for students without involving the community, right? And so working with the community is crucial in that regard. Developing mentors in school, developing mentors after school, and of course for out of school. And then the community is really essential in this. We have to provide. Look, if I can back up,
sure,
and just throw out some numbers at you because the work is important, but context is everything. Right now, I was looking at the number last couple weeks ago. I did a presentation in Hempstead, New York, to the school superintendent. I went back and I did a presentation to the school board, and the first time I did the presentation, the computing jobs across the country, and I tracked this through code.org, available was 410,000. And when I went back last week to do the presentation, it was up to 469,000 computing jobs that we have in the country that we're not able to fill. In Utah here, we have just under 5,000, but that's going to double, because we have a cool opportunity coming in Ogden. So we have all these jobs in computing that's available now, and that's just going to get more. It's going to become more and more and more over time. Advanced data analytics and data science, we're going to have about 2.8 million jobs in the next 10 years that we're going to need to fill. Advanced manufacturing, we're going to have 2.5 million jobs by 2028, they're saying, that we'll need to fill. And then cybersecurity, you know the story around that. We have almost 4 million jobs globally that we're expecting that we're going to need to fill, with 1 million here in the U.S. alone. Folks don't understand that and the implications of that. So it's not just about education, right? At the end of the day, what we talk about is, yes, STEM is about education, but a 21st century education is about skill and talent development. And so we say if it's about skill and talent development, then it's about workforce development, because what we just talked about was workforce gaps. And then if it's about that, it's about economic development. So the real conversation that we're having when we start with a STEM education is an economic development conversation. And that's where the community needs to be aware, to be involved, and to be a part of the solution, because the skills are available in the community from these businesses. So, when we organize stakeholders, there are about 8 or 9 stakeholders that we've identified: parents, students, education, higher education, vendor partners like us, businesses, community organizations, philanthropy, and I don't know what that number is, but about 8 or 9 that we have to sit together in a room and talk about what's the implication of not having a comprehensive STEM program for our students as we move forward in the rest of the 21st century. And it's pretty amazing when we start having that conversation.
Yeah.
So we've rebranded to 21st Century Ed to encompass all of the work that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know what the implications are, right?
That's right.
Whether it's an actual arms race with weapons and technology, if you don't keep up, you might lose the next war. If it's like economic development in your population and you're not good at cybersecurity or software development or electrical engineering, you'll get past as complete civilization, theoretically. All right, so yeah, there are a lot of stakeholders, and that's you're a part of that, and that's your business model, right?
Yes.
Is to provide these experiences,
Yes.
classes, modules, and you guys have a lot, but what are, maybe 5 or 6 of those that you offer?
So, so we cover the standard coding, robotics, engineering, but we have things like circuitry, rocketry, financial literacy, entrepreneurship. We have a very popular class called creativity and innovation. We offer certifications in things like Adobe. There's a green certification that we do at the high school level. So a number of courses. We have courses on Bitcoin, transportation technology. So a lot of experiences that you wouldn't typically picture under a STEM experience, but truly are STEM experiences. So we go deep and wide for exposure. Our model is, let's get our students to try any and every one that they want to.
Yep.
If it connects to something within them, like a passion, and they want to continue and finish, cool, let them finish. If they are trying circuitry, for example, and it's not for them, let them stop and try something else.
Yeah.
As we were discussing earlier on, exposure is the key to identifying the gifts, the talents, and abilities in our students. Exposure without any sort of consequences of failure. I was doing a keynote in a school district for their convocation in Indiana last week, and I mentioned to the teachers, and they actually agreed that school is the one place you're not encouraged to fail. Right. And you can't innovate and create without failure. And so I implored them to allow their students to fail forward, fail positively, so that they can discover these hidden gifts, talents, and abilities that are within them. And we need for that to happen for the rest of the 21st century, because we are in a global competition for talent. Right. And so far, we're not winning. And I say that with a smile on my face, because it's really ironic that we're here in the greatest country in the world, who's responsible for so much advancements in technology, and developing nations are creeping up and sometimes surpassing us in areas of technology and areas of mathematics, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so we have to shift the way we're thinking about that. Get our kids ready to compete globally by providing these opportunities and allowing them to fail forward, fail positively. Look, as an entrepreneur, you know this. I can't tell you how many times I've had to fail to get it right. And inventors and innovators, it's the same story. But in education, in schools, they're not allowed to do that. We have to shift that thinking to expose them to as many opportunities as they possibly can, so that we can find those hidden talents and build this tremendous workforce for the 21st century that we so desperately need.
Yeah, I love that, because I know for a fact, like, you could pay me $1 million a year to be a software engineer, and I wouldn't do it. I'd rather dig ditches.
Yeah.
But it's good to have that right? Like, under no circumstances do I want to do that. And you can progress through life and, using your guys' program of like, I have no interest in electrical engineering. I think Adobe and being creative is very cool, but I've never had the chance to know in a lot of what you guys do whether I like it or not. And like, fairly quickly, I would assume, right, this isn't for me.
Yeah. And we encourage that. And one of the stories I tell is I talk to teachers, because context setting is really, really important. You would think that our teachers understand the importance of STEM. So I don't bash teachers at all. I say this whole thing happened to us very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Technology has advanced so quickly, it caught most of us looking, right? So one of the things I tell teachers is, Let your students experience, and let them try things in a way that's important to them. That's interest based, right? So interest based learning. So the story I tell them is, look, if you wanted to get me in coding when I was back in high school, you weren't going to get me in coding. In fact, I dropped out of my programming class in high school. That wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But music was for me. I mean, I grew up in Jamaica where we had these sound systems, and it was about music, and I was really into music. So if you had a sound and audio mixing course, for example, like we do in our catalog, I would have been all over that. And so that's how we need to find our students. Latch on to something that they're interested in, and then show them the coding in that, show them the engineering in that, show them the STEM in that. And you don't have to convince them of STEM at that point. They'll discover it themselves.
Yeah. And the part I like about what you guys are building is you can kind of trick them into learning a little bit of something they might not even like, right? Like with the robotic Legos, right? They might say, I want it to do this. Well, okay, that's a little bit of software. Okay, fine, I'll learn a little bit. And whether they, become a software engineer, at least they have like at least a puncher's chance in interacting with that. And it really exposes folks to, like, if you're going to land a Mars rover on Mars, look at all the stuff that had to go into that. Millions of lines of code, hardware engineering, physics, and then, you kind of become a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the fact that you use Lego robotics. Lego's done a tremendous job of getting into STEM, because if you love, for example, building things with Lego, you can start asking the question, can I make that move?
Yeah.
Right. Can I make it move by itself? And so all of these questions that you start asking yourself and you become interested in, you're asking yourself, how do I learn how to code so I can make that happen? And before long, you have a student who, on its own, would say, hey, on his or her own, would say, I'm not interested in coding, mastering coding, just because they have an objective, an idea about what they'll do with that coding. And so context, again, is really everything. When you talk to the students, what are they really interested in? One of the things that we hear quite a bit as we look to reopen schools and get back into the fall semester is learning loss. And I'm telling our school superintendents and their team, look, let's not approach it from that perspective. Of course, that causes them to sort of perk up and say, well, what do you mean by that? We have to make up for the learning loss. I was like, well, look, students were learning. I can guarantee that. I guarantee that they didn't spend 18 months not learning.
Yeah.
They might not learn what you wanted to teach them, but they were learning. So find out what they were learning.
Yeah.
Find out what they were learning and get a baseline of how you can invite them to participate. Expand on what they were learning. Integrate that into their educational experience and their educational journey, and you will reignite and have an engaged students in a way that you haven't thought about or seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned a lot of data, and there's tons of data out there, whether it's workforce development, economic data, and even just kind of paying attention to what's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. You'd have a good idea of what skills are kind of in demand and forecast that into the future a little bit. So, but how do you guys decide on the next experience to launch, or where to focus some of your content and learning?
Yeah, so we collaborate with schools. We collaborate with businesses. We're actually bidding on this project for a school in Texas where they want to have an AI focus, and so we investigate what that means to them. What are their local or regional resources that can help us construct a course? And so our partners that are coming on board this year, they're coming on board with 46 different STEM experiences. We're going to double that by the end of next year.
Okay.
And it really is a consultative approach. What do you want to see in the catalog? And then we get our teams together to build those experiences. So some really, really cool things coming down the pike.
Yeah.
We have a new course on design thinking and coding. right? Not just coding, but really learning, teaching that design thinking process, which is whether it's the engineering process, the scientific process, the design thinking process. When you create, you need a process for doing that, and teaching that at an early age is really, really crucial. In combining that with coding, gives our students an idea of how to use code deliberately, as it affects their lives.
Yeah. And which ones are the most popular so far?
So our creativity and innovation course is really, really popular. Our entrepreneurship course is very popular as well. Financial literacy. We see a lot of students getting excited about that. And then your regular robotics courses, of course, they're always showing up there. We have a Minecraft modding course that kids are pretty excited about, and it runs the gamut. Sometimes it depends on what side of the country you're on, but some really cool experiences. We went into a school district 45 minutes south of Chicago, and we deployed our platform to all students, right? Because that's our requirement. We'll fire ourselves from an opportunity if they're looking just to serve some of their students, unless there's a strategic plan on building up to all students. We're not interested in some of your students. What's happening in the marketplace requires that we think about all students.
Sure.
And so we went into this district, Fort Heights, Illinois, and they deployed across. So Fort Heights is it's an all Title I district. Pretty, it's if you do some research on Fort Heights, you'll see not some cool stuff there. But we went in and we deployed it in the school district. We went back a year later, and it was really amazing what we found. Little boys and girls who might not have otherwise been exposed to the STEM in the way that we bring it, multiple courses, interest-based pursuits, are now talking about wanting to be STEM teachers, wanting to own their businesses because of the entrepreneurship, understanding financial literacy in a way that they haven't before. Mm-hmm. And so it's really amazing when you go into a community and you insist that all of your students must be included. No negotiations on that point, because the need is much greater than we're seeing, and see what happens. And I'm telling you, the shifts that we're seeing is downright. We actually made a video on this, and it's available on our website and even on YouTube. It's profound.
Yeah.
And what it does is it shows you that the ideas that we have or had about certain groups not being able to do STEM was really baseless. This district is 98%, I think, African American. We had girls. We had one girl. She was middle school. She learned how to code on our program, did some things on her own, ended up being hired at 14 years old by a company to program for them part-time. Mm-hmm. Created an app and then went off to high school. Right, in this forgotten community that historically we would have said, well, there's not a whole lot of STEM coming out of that community. So it's amazing what happens when you deploy STEM, an opportunity for all students. You'll see them shine. It doesn't matter what their sex, what their race. And this is what she actually said. She said it doesn't matter what your race, what your sex, what your age. You just have to have an open mind and interest. And that's the message that we're taking to our school districts and sometimes even their communities if the school district doesn't have the leadership to help transform it into a 21st century community.
Yeah. Again, it's not rocket science that people are curious. Doesn't matter where they live or where they're from, and if you give them some access and opportunity, they'll grasp it.
And so interestingly enough, you're saying it's not rocket science. You and I know that. But it's not like that out there in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Some people are treating it like it's rocket science until you provide the right context.
Yeah.
And they see that it truly isn't, no pun intended, right? If we're talking about STEM, rocket science. But there's some challenges. I mean, here in Utah, for example, the school districts are so large that when we talk about all students, it's the funding and budgets become a barrier.
Yeah.
And so for a place like Utah, scale matters, and getting the whole state to participate in something like this is the thing that makes the most sense. In other places, school districts are much smaller. They have more control of their budgets, and they can make that happen. And so in places like Utah, the worry is we're going to be left behind because we're not offering the same opportunities on scale like others are. And so we really do have to take a hard look at how to do that, so that Utah has got a tremendous economy. I mean, we're just going gangbusters. Tech is a big part of that, and we need to make sure we have this infrastructure built so that we can continue to grow at the pace that we're growing.
Yeah, and you keep mentioning school districts, and obviously that's a big part of your business model. But a kid could engage with your guys' platforms, or parents or aunts or uncles, right? Like, that's not completely restrictive.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because so 9 times out of 10 your schools will not have the depth and the breadth of STEM experiences that a student needs to thrive in the rest of the 21st century. And so we do market to parents, market to students. They can go on TechTrep.com or 21stCentEd.com and subscribe to our catalog and take as many courses in many cases as they can. It's because what we want for students to do, as we talked about, is experiment. Right, so we had to look at our model. Our original model was you buy a course and you finish it. The model we're evolving into, and we have for the school district, and we're figuring it out for parents, is how do we give the same opportunity if you're not a part of a school district to your student? And so if you go to 21stCentEd.com, that's where we're experimenting with that model, where you can subscribe to the catalog for a whole year, and it's all you can eat.
Yeah.
All you can eat, because, again, underscore, highlights, bullets. It's really crucial to have our students not be restricted in terms of their experience, so they can find a place to connect with in this 21st century economy.
Yeah, I love it. And it's very impactful. And as I was looking at your site, I don't know if this is part of your guys' plan, but like me, an adult, interested in electrical engineering, right? I could probably take that class designed for like an 8-year-old, and I'd be about at the same level, right? So theoretically, it could help a bunch of folks starting out and moving into a new career. Obviously, it'd be a long path, but does that happen where parents might make a change as well?
So we encourage that. So we use this mentorship model where if you're buying a course for the student, you get to be their mentor and take the same course. And so we are seeing parents and students and sometimes even teachers. I was in one school district and it was an African American school district, and she said, and I'm going to try to use that. She said, "Look, I know I'm supposed to know this, but I'm gonna be honest, y'all. This financial literacy thing, it's got me. So I'm really looking forward to being a mentor to these courses so I can learn this." And so we always say it's a twofer or a threefer. Just as long as you have a license, and get on and be a mentor with your student and learn alongside them and find your own way, right? Now, as we evolve our concept around 21st Cent Ed, we know that we have to think about the adults. When we look at a community, for example, we're providing a good foundation structure for our young people, but some of the things that they're wrestling with workforce development is, how do we upskill and reskill our current student population? And we want you to jump in with your students, but we know that a direction for us is to help guide that work and that initiative. There are some great companies out there that's doing it right now. Yeah, but it'd be a great extension for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so a lot's gone on, and you and your team are obviously very passionate about it, and I think you guys are at the right place at the right time. So what are your guys' plans? You've mentioned a few in passing, but what are you most excited about as you do this relaunch and kind of expand?
Yeah. So it's interesting. We've been really going at this for about 5 years, and in many ways, I'm thinking now we were ahead of our time, and the timing is right now. The pandemic has sort of put a spotlight on the fact that we really do need to integrate remote and virtual learning into our students' education, and STEM is crucial to the rest of the 21st century. And so as we look to expand on that, it's building more meaningful experiences, and by that I mean specific to developing those 21st century skills that are needed. Context for that: historically, we've been told that schools are preparing you. They use college and career readiness, but what that really meant was either we prepare you for college, or which is the A choice, or the other choice, or Plan B, or an afterthought. The secondary choice is you find some kind of work, you go into the military, or something like that. The college dropout rate is 40%. So 4 out of 10 kids that we're sending to college are dropping out, either because they weren't ready to go. And 9 times out of 10, it's not about aptitude. They weren't ready to go. For me, I probably could have used 3 years, a 3-year break doing something else before I went off to college, because my first couple of years were disastrous, right?
Yeah.
And so as we look to shift how we think about education, we think that there are 4 primary choices that that students can make after graduation. One, we think that every single student should be ready for work. In the 21st century, with a comprehensive STEM background, they can do that.
Sure.
2, for those who are so inclined, they should go on to college. They want to be a lawyer, a doctor, something that requires a higher degree, they should go get it, and they'll be ready for it. 3, all students should be trained to be entrepreneurs, because again, developing these 21st century skills through STEM, and with this gig economy, we're going to have kids that are going to create some cool things, and they should have that underneath their foundation. I'm still learning how to be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Stuff that if I had in my experience would have made this journey a lot shorter and a lot smoother. I didn't have. So I'm arguing for providing that to our students. And then the fourth primary option is our students should be ready to serve, whether that's being the military, because you have military families. That's what they're doing. The kids aren't going off to college. They're not going into work. They're going into serve. That's their family tradition. And so we need to make sure that they're ready for that, because the military of today is not like the military of yesterday. There's some stuff happening in there that requires advanced skills.
Oh, yeah.
And we should get our kids ready for that. And so as we look at those 4 opportunities, where we're going is making it easy for education to evolve into a place where students are developing the requisite skills to, 1, go straight into work, making $50,000 to $100,000 a year. That's out there. Again, 2, going off to college, because that's what they want to do. And 3, becoming entrepreneurs. And 4, serving the military. And that will shape the direction of 21st Cent Ed as we grow into a bigger and larger company.
Love it. Yeah, life is rough when you're confused and you don't know how the world works, right? But I think there's less and less excuses. And, folks like you and your company and others, I think can have a really big impact for this generation and obviously the ones coming down the chute. So, thank you so much for taking the time to join. And if folks want to reach out, get involved as a partner, or if they just want to learn more, where should they go? Yeah,
I'd love and I'm not bashful about giving out my email, Marlon, Marlon, at TechTrep, TechTrep.com, or go to our website. Again, we're in transition. You go to TechTrep.com or go to 21stcented.com and you'll find us.
Awesome. Thanks, Marlon.
Thank you. Appreciate having you.